Hey everyone, hope you are doing awesome. Welcome back to my channel PEGAhut with another video. Thanks everyone for subscribing to my channel, and if you haven't hit the bell icon yet, please do so you won't miss any of my videos. Please hit the like button and leave me a comment or feedback if you like the video or the way I have explained. Alright, today what we're going to learn is about the dropdown and the cascading dropdown control. So basically what I'm going to explain you today is about how you're going to source the data in a dropdown control. So there are multiple ways that you can source the detail in the dropdown. The first one is as defined on property. So basically what this does is you define certain data in the property, and then based on the data, when you launch this drop down in the UI, automatically you would see those values coming up on the UI. And second thing which we are going to learn is how you are going to source the data by using a clipboard page. It's same, instead of defining that in the property, you are going to calculate or evaluate those values in a clipboard on a clipboard page, and eventually that clipboard page is going to be your source for this specific drop down. Now the next is sourcing the data using database. It is one of the most common and favored pattern that people use in the drop down control, which we call a cascading which we call a reference pattern structure, so which people use most of the time. And then the last one is sourcing the data by using report definition. So basically here what you are going to see is this is what the drop down control looks like, and the list source is the place where you are going to source the data by choosing one of those four options. Now next thing is what we are going to do is, for all this scenario I'm going to create I'm gonna show you in practical, and also going to show you a use case on when you're gonna use it. Now the next thing which is very crucial, or I would say mostly you're gonna see them you've been used in your day-to-day life project, which is cascading drop-down control. The best example I could able to give is like when you have a select country drop down, and the moment you select the country, you will get the respective states populated in the other drop down. So one drop down is dependent on the input of another drop down, which is cascading drop down list. So I'm going to show how you're gonna use it while explaining this drop down control. So without doing any further delay, let's get into it. So to achieve all this, what I have done is I have created some of the prerequisites. I have created two property. One is country here, and other one is state here. And then what I did is, in the section I have used that property as drop down, country and state. Now first let's understand what are options that we can get potentially when we go with the drop down. Now in the drop down here, you would see a property to be mentioned. So what this property does, it holds the value whatever you are going to choose in the drop down. And you have a level. Now level you can choose, either you can choose the default level or you can have your own level depending on the need. Now default value is, if you want to have a default value selected before even the screen load. If you don't want, then you can just leave as is. Now here all this helper text will give you whether you want to give any helper text, which will kind of help the user to understand what this drop down is. And similarly you have visibility, disable and required condition. Visibility, as you would have seen my earlier video, then you would know visibility is to show and hide, when to show the drop down or when not to. Disable is when to make the user to edit that or choose a value, or if you don't want to let the user to choose a value, then you can go for disable option. Now required is when you wanted to make that as a mandatory. So for the time being, it is disabled as never, required as never, but visibility is always, because I want to show that. Now include a placeholder, what will happen, if you would have seen my videos, then you would note, if you don't put include a placeholder, then the moment the screen loads, whatever the first value, you would see that on the drop down. Now having an include placeholder, something like select ... it will have a select on the top, and then you can click on the drop down to choose the right value, whatever you need. So that's the placeholder. Now the main thing and the main topic for our discussion is the source. How you gonna source the value for a drop down. So there are four different type of source. First thing is as defined on property. Now let's go and test one by one, and I'll explain when to use what. Now as defined on property, well, to be honest, you would find them very less likely to be used. Reason being, it's not easily configurable, not easily changeable. Now, what does it mean? Now, if you see as defined by property means what we generally do, we go to that particular property and here we define them. Now, what is the problem of defining here? The problem is it's okay, it's easy. I mean, if you see, let's go ahead and define that, and I'll tell you what you should do or not. So you got many options here. You can also get again from database, you can also go for field value, all these things. So we'll go with the local list. Now in the local list, what I'll do, so let's say country, so I'll say India, okay, another country Australia, okay, and let's say Japan. So these are the countries which I have defined. Now if you define those countries here, automatically it will come over here if the list source is as defined on property. Now let's go and quickly test that to make sure it's working. So I'll just go here and save and run. Now as you could see, if you see, okay, the select one is because of this placeholder means it will come here. Now because I told as defined on property India, Australia, Japan. Now let's say tomorrow if another country comes and you wanna add that, then you can always do let's say you can choose another country, let's say England. Okay, the moment you save it, automatically it will be reflect here. If you do action and refresh, automatically it will fetch the latest details whatever there in the property, and you can see the England also here. But now what's the demerit? The demerit is, see, like I told, right, tomorrow means now I have changed. Now generally in real time, this entire I mean at the moment I don't have a checkout option, because to make it flexible I don't have a checkout option in my rule set version. But in real time you'll have a checkout option in the rule set version, right? This is unchecked for me, that's why you can see only save and action and delete. But in real time it will be a part of your locked rule set. Now the problem of having this a locked rule set version means it is not flexible to change it. So tomorrow if you want to just add another country, you can't do it. You literally have to take these changes by doing you need to you need to save it to a branch and then do these changes. It is not configurable, what I meant to say. So because of that we most likely won't use that. But this is how you if it is like yes and no, I mean for example gender, right, male, female and others, right? So these are the three conditions, you would see them never changing. So those kind of things you can feel free to go and do. Or let's say if are you want to proceed, either it will be potentially yes or no, right? These are pretty common. So this kind of scenario where you should always go for this option. But where you know that there is a room for improvement or a change in configuration at the later phase in production, then you should not go for this option. Now I hope this is clear with respect to the first option. Now the second option which I wanted to explain you is this. Let's quickly understand about the clipboard page. Then we'll go with the database and report definition. Now the second option is clipboard page. Now what does it mean? So it says, let's say you have a scenario wherein you are going to pre-calculate value. Basically this drop down, right, will change depending on the scenario. Okay, let's say for example you are in a region, right, and then for that region let's take an example of tax, right? Now let's say if I'm in India I have a different tax slabs, if I'm in Australia I have a different tax slab or something like that. So the drop down will vary depending on the region, or depending on the scenario, depending on what you choose in. So in those kind of things what we do is we calculate those values that I wanted to show in a drop down even before it loads to the screen, and then we store them in before coming to the screen so that you can see them. Now what how does it work? So I'll just show you. So this is a flow action. When I did clipboard page, what it asked, it asked me a clipboard page. Now remember this one, although it's a page, but it will always expect a page list or a group, because it's a drop down, right? It will always deals with list or this one. Now if I choose, let's say my customer detail is actually a page. Now what it's saying is invalid data page or page list or group, right? Because it's not a page list. So I have to define a page list. Now I'll show you how we do. So just in the interest of time, what I have already got a class called data-address detail. What I'm going to do is I'll create a property called country list, okay, and I'll just do here, and I'll change it to a page list, and I will give the same class. Okay, I saved it. Now I have a property called country list, and I'm going to put that into the address detail. Okay, now here what I'm going to do, first I will go to the flow action. So if I just, for the timing, I'll just go as defined in property. Okay, I will go to the flow action, which will be sitting somewhere in my not data model, in the process flow action. I'll go to the flow action. Let's say before it loads means I will do something on the pre. Now in the apply data transform, I'll say preset data. Okay, and I'll just create that data transform. Okay, I'll go ahead and create the data transform, and in the data transform, what I'm going to do is dot country list 1 or dot country list. Let me set, I'm just utilizing that property instead of creating a fresh new one. Let's consider you have created properly one fresh new one, and here what you're doing is you are doing India. Okay, and then I'm gonna create another, paste below. I'll say country list, I'll say, let's say Australia. Okay, just for the timing I'm gonna put only 2. Okay, now my country list will already have a value by the time it will come, because if you guys know that, in first, how does it execute? It goes to the flow action, and it first execute the pre-processing data, and then it loads the section. So now when pre-processing data happens, it will load my country 1 and country 2. I'll show that also in the tracer. Now what I'll do is I'll do an action, and before that what I'll do is I'll go to this create. I'll change this to as defined by property. Okay, as defined, I'll change it to clipboard based, because this is what we are learning, we are trying to understand now. And here I'm gonna choose country list. Now once I choose country list, what it will do, okay, here also you can run a data transform and run an activity. I forgot to mention, but yeah, sometime we can do it later previously, or we can do it at this point also. Now here what I'm going to do is, where I have kept my countries, I have kept in this property, and I'm going to say property for value this one, property for display text is this one. So you can always define this kind, you can always change. For example, property for display text, you can always change to India, and you can have another property where you can store the code as IND depending on your need. So now I have done this one, right? Now I'll do a submit. Now I'll do a save. Here I'll go to test, and I'll do, I'll probably do an action and refresh. Action and refresh. Okay, and before I click on get, right, I'll turn on the tracer just so that I'll show you, that it loads. First of all, I'll click on get, and I'll pause I'll click on the go, and I'll pause it here. And if you see here now, okay, my country didn't come, so I'll quickly see, and I know maybe I didn't save the flow action, right? Preset data. I think I haven't saved the flow action, so let me quickly go ahead. I always forget that, so I'll save this flow action, and here I'll do an action and refresh again. Okay, and before I do, I'll clear this, play this, and I'll say go. Okay, now here what I'll do is I'll just wait for the tracer to finish, and then I'll go here. Now if you see, India and Australia came over here. What happened basically? Now when it loaded this section, first it loaded this flow action, and because it is in pre-processing, it saw this data transform, and in the data transform, if you see, it executed, and here see set country 1, set country 2, as you could see here in the py workpage. If you see here, I'll have something called country list with 2 value, India and Australia, and basically I am using this same value as part of my drop down. So this is how it sets the data here, and I'm using this particular country in the drop down. So this is what you can do. So now what is the scenario that you can do, or you can choose this option where, let's say, depending on very specific, depending on the scenario, let's say you need to calculate what are the value it should have in the drop down, and let's say it is not a simple, like, you know, passing a simple filter condition, it will be complex calculation. Then you can go for clipboard page. Now I hope this is clear. Now let's come back to the data page, which is most commonly you would see them being used, and we are going to use the database. Now before database, let's create one, okay, and see how it works. Okay, so when you use this option, first thing is you need to have a database which holds this value, right? So to do that, what you can do is you can create a database. So the easiest way that I'm going to show you guys is to create a data type, which will in turn Pega will create a database for me. Okay. Now, if you want to learn about database, then obviously I have a dedicated section which I explain, you know, how to create a database or all varieties of database there. So feel free to go there and learn. In the interest of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a data type called country. Okay, country. Now here, what I'm going to do is, here I'll go to Record Explorer, okay, and here I'm going to configure the source. Here, mostly what I would need is, I would need two values. One is your country code and your country name, okay, country name. We often tend to store, in this kind of scenario, we often tend to store two things, country code and country name. Now here country code, I'm gonna make it as a primary, okay, and I'll do a submit, because a country code cannot be repeated, right? I need to have the unique list of value. Now here, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to add country code as IND and country name as India. Similarly, I'm going to add country code as AUS and country name as Australia, okay? And similarly, I will add country name as ENG, country code as ENG, country name as England. Okay. Now, as you know, anytime you create a data type, you will have this D pages available, D country list. Now, here what I need the list of country. Who will give me the list of country? Only D_country list is the one who's gonna give me the list of country. Here, if I run it, then what will happen is, if I do a flush, what will happen is, I will run and find the list. What is my row count? Result count is 3, and then all the details you would find them in PX result, which is in 1 and 2 and 3. Now there are two property, country code and country name. Remember this one, which are crucial. Now what I need to do in the next step is, take this country list, okay, and go to the create one. Here what we are going to learn is this type as database. Now in the database, mention this particular database, okay. Now when I mention here, there are two values, right? Country code and country name. Let's focus on having the country code internally flowing across the process. However, to display to customer, to display to user or customer, we are going to show them as country name. So in this particular area, what you are going to do is, you are going to choose country code as property for value. However, property for display text, you are going to choose as country name. Okay, I hope this is clear. Now what you did, you have chosen a country list on DPage, and here country code and country name. Now if I do submit and do save, and then what I'm going to do is, I'm going to do a action and run at this point. I'll do a refresh first, okay, and in the refresh, what I'll do is, I'll turn on I'll show you also how does it work in the background. I'll turn on the tracer first, okay, and I'll before playing, I will also create this database. If you want to learn anything about database, feel free to visit my different series of videos, okay. Now clear the database. Now before I click on go, and also yes, not to mention, also I'll go to the flow action and get rid of this data transform, although it's not going to harm, but I just wanted to clean it. So I'll get rid of this data transform, and now I come here at the moment and I'll do play and I'll say go, okay. Now once it's loaded, what in the background it is going to do is, it is going to call the database. So if that is loaded. So let me see if the property has already come, then I'm going to explain what exactly it has done. So now reload section. Okay, I can get my I can see my property India, England and Australia. So now I'll tell you what it does. The moment it loads, it saw a reference. It saw a reference in the it saw over here the list sources database, and it found the reference. The moment it found, it will go and load this particular database. So as you could see here, at this point, when it could able to find a reference, the moment it find the reference, obviously I don't have the parameter, it goes and loads database load begin loading in thread scope. It goes and loads everything, and then what it does is, once it loaded, now my dpace has the country value, right? Now as whatever I have shown you, now my dpace has got px result 1 as let's say Australia, px result 2 as England, px result 3 as IND. So it will go and loads, and that's where you're gonna see that on the screen over here. Okay, now I hope this is clear. Now second thing is, okay, obviously this is a country, right? How often this country will change? Very rare. That's the reason why you need to make sure these databases are going to be this database is going to be a node level database, not a thread level database. So I'll just store that. Okay, and obviously a node level database always asks for an access group, so make sure you are also giving an access group. So PEGAhut, I'll probably give administrator or author. Okay, so again, when if you want to I think I'll just change my access group. So again, what I'm trying to say is, whenever you are having any node level database, it will ask always an access group. Now again, why it needs and all those details, for that you can feel free to visit to my other link where I have explained everything about database. So yep, so that is done. Now this is done. Now second thing which I need to consider is this. Now you must be thinking, okay, why did we source this from the database? Now think about this, right? Tomorrow, if there is another country added, all we need to do is come here and add a record, let's say Japan or something like that. Okay, I'll put Japan. So all you need to do is add a record and then come here, and because it's a node level, right, that's what we planned, all I need to do is clear this, okay, without even changing the code. Now the user, when they go and create a cases, let's say I'll just refresh instead of creating anyone, they both are same, create a case, what will see, they will see the latest change without even changing the code. But had you have chosen the other option where you're selecting from the property, then you would have always changed the code and it went to review. So these changes you can directly do in production itself. So that is why it is very crucial and easy to change and source detail via database and data source, then putting that in the property. I hope this is clear. Now I've got the other option, which is my report definition. Now before I go to the report, as I wanted to show you the cascading style of fetching the data. One is like you select a country and based on that it will select a state, right? That's the reason why I'm explaining that also along with my drop down session. Now that's the reason why I have changed that database to node. Now for state, right, what we are going to do is we are also going to create another database. Okay, so I'm going to explain now the report definition part, which is our last part, right? Now if you see, we have completed 3. Now I'm going to explain the report definition part. Now to do that, what I'll do is I'll add a data type which will be my state. Okay, now here in the state, remember one thing, that the states are dependent on the country, isn't it? So to do that, to make this dependent, we need to create 3 property. What are the property? One is your state code. Okay, another one is your state name, and the third one is your country code, because I wanted to link the country codes based on the state, right? Now here, so basically I want to have the country code along with the state, so that if the users choose country, I'm gonna fetch the same state. Now here, because it's a state, right, now state code is going to be primary. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in the interest of time, I'm going to pause the video and start adding everything in the background. So I have added these states in the state local data storage. So if you guys have noticed, right, every time you create a local data storage, it creates a reports out of it automatically. Pega creates data pages and reports. Now if you see any of the data pages of any of the list data pages, internally it is going and calling the same report that it creates, and that's why it is fetching all the detail. Now if I just run this report, right, this report will get me all the detail along with country, state, everything, right? If I just go and run the report, it will give me the list of state name, country code and state code that we have entered in the database, right? Now what we are going to do is, you can directly use this report. So here in the state, right, what you can do is you can choose this report definition and use that particular report. I'll show you how to use that. Now this report belongs to this class, right? You can choose this class and put it over here, and then you can choose, the moment you click on the drop down, automatically it will fetch the report that belongs to this particular class. And property for value, you can always choose what property for value you want to get. So if I put a dot and see, state code is going to be the property for value, and state name is going to my property for display. Okay, and I'm going to submit this one. This is how you are going to use the report definition. Now if I just go ahead and do a quick refresh here and just open it, what will happen is, in my country I have got Australia, England, Japan, India, but in my state, all the state that I have entered into the local data storage will be fetched via the report definition. Now this is how you are going to use in country I have shown you how to use by database. In state I have shown you how to use the report definition. Now generally what happens is, as my requirement is to pass the country code and fetch the report, fetch the state, right? What I need to do is, what I should be doing is, I need to go to this report and create a parameter. Now let's say, think about it, I am going to create a parameter wherein I'll say country code. Okay, I'll take this parameter, okay, and this will be my text parameter, okay, because I need to pass IND or something. Now here what I'm going to do is, I'm going to in the filter condition, what I'm going to do is, if only fetch the report based on my, if the country code which is here is equal to parent dot country code, right, then only you fetch the report, right? So let's say if I put a default value, if I go to parameter, I put a default value IND here just for the timing, and I'll do action and run, you would only find the state belongs to IND, India. Similarly, if I just put AUS here, what will happen is, you will only find report belongs to Australia, right? So that is how it will work. Now that I have done these changes, I'll get rid of this default value, I'll save it over here, I'll go back to this country, here, and I'm going to just do a refresh. So automatically, because I have changed now, automatically this parameter will come. Now this country code, where exactly this country code has been set. Now if you remember here, okay, it will ask me, yes, okay, I'll just choose state code, okay, I'll come back to here. If you remember here, what we did, we have sourced this country code from a database. Now in this database, I have told property for display is country name, but property for value is country code. Now if the user chooses India, the IND will be stored into this property which we have mentioned for the drop down. Okay, this is the property which we get from database, but this is the property where we store the value. Now the property will be stored in this particular value. So what we need to do is, we need to pass this in this state, we need to pass the same thing as dot country code, country, because that is where my country code, basically in runtime it will be IND or it will be AUS. Okay, in runtime it will be like that. So okay, I'll put country, okay, which will be part of my country code. Okay, now what I need to do is, I need to go do a save. Now how it's supposed to work, The moment I choose country, what it will do is it will refresh and bring me this detail, right? Now I need to do an auto refresh, right? I mean, I need to do an auto refresh. I can't expect it to, the moment I choose country, it will auto load and do. So to do that, what I need to do is I'll do action in this on click or on change, I would say. You do a refresh this section. The moment you refresh the section, it will take internally the value, it will filter out and get me all the value. Now if I just go and do the same action and refresh here and reopen this, you will find this all the country here, and here also you will find all the state, because I am at the moment my country is blank, right? So that's why it is just getting me all the state. And the moment I select Australia, what will happen? Okay, Australia enter value AUS for country is not valid. Okay, so if you go to this country, right, what we did is, I mean, as part of our initial session is we have defined this property in a local list, right? Yes, if you define this local list, obviously if you choose something else, it will give an error saying that this is not a valid value. We forgot to delete. Now let's go ahead and delete this, then it should be all good. There won't be any error. Okay, the lister does not contain any entries. Yes, I need to make it none. That's the reason. All right, now that I have deleted that, I'll do a quick action and a refresh. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now if you see, I have got Australia. The moment I choose Australia, what will happen? Here I am getting New South Wales and Victoria. The moment I choose India, here I am going getting Andhra Pradesh and Odisha and Telangana. The moment I choose England, because I haven't have any state for England stored in my local data storage, that's why I'm not getting anything. So that's how your report definition works. For the cascading style, now when to prefer report definition and when to prefer database. See, the here in this scenario we should not be using report definition for getting the state value, although yes, we could get it. What will happen is, what does report definition do than database? So database loads the entire data and store into a clipboard so that you can use that. Okay, and moreover, when it is a node level database, it can be used for across the user. However, for report definition, every time you choose something and every time it refreshes, it goes and executes this report and brings you the latest copy. Now the demerits of that is your performance will be impacted. Now in what scenario you are going to have the report where you need to have the fresh copy all the time. During that time, you cannot obviously go ahead and every time clear the database, reload it, right? So you might as well consider having a report there because you wanted a fresh copy. But in our scenario, how often is country and states are changing? Very rare, right? That's why we don't need to go with the report definition. We need to go with the database. Now to do with it, I wanted to show you the cascading style. Although with respect to all the list of sources, my session ends here. But as I wanted to show you the cascading style, I would also go ahead and show you how to do that, fetch those details via a database for the state. Now if you go here, now d_state list, in the data table editor, I have introduced a parameter called country code, right? Now what I need to do is, I need to have the same parameter in my state list also. Here I'll mention the parameter, okay, and over here in the parameter section, I'm mentioning in the database. In the parameter section, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to say pass current parameter base, okay, and I'll do a save. Now if I do and run this database, what will happen? If I put IND, it will go and fetch the same report definition and it will get me the result count is 3 because it has got me all the state that I have got for IND, that is AP, Telangana and Odisha. Similarly, if I go for US, it will give me the result for Australia, right? Now my database is ready, and as you know how to use the database, you can choose this as a database, and in the database you choose d_state list, and here it will ask you the parameter, same parameter you need to pass, country, because that's where my thing stored, and here you need to, what you are going to do is, property for value is state code and property for name is state name. So this is what you are state name. So this is what you are going to store. And also remember, as like I told just before, how frequently your state is going to change. very rare, right? So that's why this kind of database would always be a thread level database. Okay, sorry, node level database. So I'm gonna go and get the access group here. From here, that's my access group, and I'm going to mention that because node level database will always require the access group. Now here, if I go and do an action and refresh, I'll do okay. So what will happen the moment I click here? You'll have Australia, it will get me those details, and if you choose India, it will get me those details. So to summarize, what I have done is here in the country I have chosen a database d underscore country list. In the state I have chosen a database wherein I pass the country that I have chosen. I hope you understood about all the list sources that we can use for Dropdown, and as it is quite simple but one of the quite useful concept that you would find, and you've been using that in all the section. And I hope also you understood about the cascading styles on how to pass the parameter from one control to another control and get fetch the detail depending on what you have chosen on the first control.
That's it for today and hope you understood clearly. Please hit the like button if you learned something or you like the way I have explained, and leave me a comment if you have any queries or feedback for me. It will help me to improve and also motivate me to post more concepts and videos. As I always tell, sharing is caring, so do share with others so people who do not know about my channel will be benefited. Stay tuned for my next video, and if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, please do subscribe and click on the bell notification for my new video updates. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.